Anhydrous ammonia, anyone know what that is? I'm Marty T. Hawkins with Warehouse and Operations as a Career, and we appreciate you checking in with us. My apologies, I'm a bit hoarse today, but hey, let's have some fun anyway. I brought up the words anhydrous ammonia a few weeks ago, and I had gotten a few questions about it, so let's look it up today. Merriam-Webster tells us that anhydrous means free from water, and they explain that ammonia is a pungent, colorless gas alkaline compound of nitrogen and hydrogen, which is NH3, that it is very soluble in water and can easily be condensed to a liquid by cold and pressure. So looking up anhydrous ammonia, we learn it is ammonia in its purest form that contains no water. At cdc.gov, we learn anhydrous ammonia is a colorless gas with pungent, suffocating fumes and is used in an agricultural fertilizer and industrial refrigerants. When handled improperly, anhydrous ammonia can be immediately dangerous to life or health. As liquid, anhydrous ammonia is released from its container into the air. It expands rapidly, forming a large cloud that acts like a heavier-than-air gas for a period of time. Because the vapors hug the ground initially, the chances for humans to be exposed are greater than most other gases. Symptoms of anhydrous ammonia exposure include eye, nose, and throat irritation, breathing difficulty, wheezing or chest pain, pulmonary edema, pink frothy sputum, burns, blisters, and frostbite. It's important to remember that exposure can be fatal at high concentrations even. My experience with it has been in the food service distribution facilities. Your larger broadlines and concept distribution centers may use it for their refrigeration systems, for their cooler and freezer vaults. If you've ever visited one of those facilities, you know that upon signing in at the lobby, they'll usually have you sign in and give you a sheet that explains that they have anhydrous ammonia, on the premises, and it will describe their evacuation procedures. Of course, it's a safe product when used properly, just one of the many things in our industry that we need to treat with, respect. I myself have had 2 run-ins with it across my career. Once a facility I was working in had been doing some work on one of the units up on the front of the cooler docks, and there was a leak. It was a small leak when bringing the unit back online. After being allowed back in the building, we had to clear all the product off the dock. I actually ended up throwing it away, really just with a abundance of caution. It ended up being only that pungent smell that triggered its disposal. It was determined that there was not really a leak after all, but some of the gas had been left in a closed-off pipe. My facility had a plan, and everyone was aware of the plan, so we'd all have been safe if there had actually been a leak. My second run-in with it was a few years later. I was asked to go to a sister company and help them clean up after they had an actual issue with it. Turns out they had a forklift driver that hit one of the pressurized ammonia lines, which triggered an evacuation. It was an actual release or spill, and all the product had to be removed and properly destroyed. It was quite an expensive mess. Anyway, when working at a facility that uses it for their refrigerations, you'll be briefed on and taught a lot about it and learn how to evacuate and stay away from it once outside. Has anyone ever seen one of those big windsocks out front or on the corners of a building? They're located in positions of sight, so you know which way the wind's blowing and you don't run into the gas while exiting. Again, it can be very dangerous stuff, but like every other tool in our industry, treat it with respect, know how to handle it safely, and adhere to all your safety procedures, and it is very safe and efficient to use. So, talking about all this makes me think of our HAZCOM or hazardous communication training. We all remember the HAZCOM talks at our facilities, our orientations, right? Hazard communication, also known as HAZCOM, is a set of processes and procedures that employers and importers must implement in the workplace to communicate any hazards that are associated with chemicals during the handling, storing, and the shipping of any kind of exposure that we could run into. Online at OSHA.gov, They have a really good fact sheet, and I'll add the link in today's show notes. You ought to check it out. I'm pretty sure that you'll find it interesting. I won't go through or read the whole thing to you, but I would like to hit on a couple of the high points real quick. I think the first paragraph of the standard pretty much wraps it up. It states, new changes to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration's Hazard Communication Standard are bringing the United States into alignment with the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, which is GHS, further improving safety and health protections for America's workers. He goes on to say, building on the success of OSHA's current hazard communication standard, the GHS is expected to prevent injuries and illnesses, save lives, and improve trade conditions for chemical manufacturers. And I think that this next sentence spells it out for us as employees. The hazard communication standard of 1983 gave the workers the right to know, but the new globally harmonized systems gives the workers the right to understand. Let's go through these real quick. The 4 major changes were hazard classification. Chemical manufacturers and importers are required to determine the hazards of the chemicals that they produce or import. It mentioned labeling or labels. Chemical manufacturers and importers must provide a label that includes a signal word, hazard statement, and precautionary statement for each hazard class and category. One of my favorite, safety data sheets. The new format requires 16 specific sections, ensuring consistency and presentation of important protection information. And then the 4th one is information and training. To facilitate understanding of the new system, the new standards require that workers be trained by December 1st, 2013 on the new label elements and safety data sheet format, in addition to the current training requirements. Again, this is a pretty informative read. Pull it up if you have a moment and check it out. I found another good URL. It was redonline.com. It's another good site I found on the subject. I like this site as it breaks down the wording into something us as employees and employers can really understand. For today's discussion, I'd like to talk a little more about safety data sheets. As we know, or I hope we all know, we have to know where the SDS stations or the books are kept at our facilities. I feel it's our responsibility to even ask, if no one has shown them to us. It should be a part of our orientation, but if it's not, ask. Please know how to use them and be able to understand what you're looking at or what you're looking for. As we've learned, every chemical in our building should have an SDS sheet. Many of you may still be calling them an MSDS sheet, and that's okay. They're the same thing these days, but SDS or safety data sheet is the proper name for them now. Anyway, please understand them. It's important, and it's really our job to know it. So let me go through this real quick. The SDS sheet is broken down into 16 sections. Section 1 is identification or what it is, its name, product type, SDS number, and usually the supplier's details. Section 2 gives us the product's OSHA status, its classification, GHS labels and hazard statements, and a little on storage and disposal information. Section 3 is composition and information on ingredients. Section 4, and this is an important one to us, or one of the 2 sections that I always like to talk to. I feel we need to understand sections 4 and 8 for every chemical in our buildings. So section 4 explains all the first aid measures to us and how to handle any exposures. That's an important one, ladies and gentlemen. Section 5 discusses firefighting measures, and section 6 explains accidental release measures. With section 7, it's talking about the handling and storage of the product. And here we are at section 8. Remember, this is an important one to us, and it covers exposure controls and personal protection. Section 9 lists the physical and chemical properties of the product. Section 10 talks to the chemical stability and reactivity. Section 11 is toxicological information. Section 12 is the ecological information. And Section 13, I think we should look at it too when we're just looking up a chemical. It's on disposal considerations. Section 14 is transport information. It gives us the DOT and TDG classifications and any transport hazard class numbers. Section 15 lists its regulatory information. And Section 16 is for other types of information. You know, our employers must make these sheets readily available to its employees. And we as associates, we really have a responsibility to know where they are located and how to use them. If you have any questions, please go ask your management. It may be you or a peer that needs them sometimes. Well, we're all out of time again. I want to thank you for checking in with WAOC today and urge you to send us an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com if you have any comments or topic suggestions. If you're finding any value with the podcast, please share it with a friend and ask them to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, or really just about any podcatcher out there. Until next week, be safe, and if you don't know where your SDS books are kept, please go in tomorrow and find out.